we'll get started. Today we have a number of slides and probably even of more interest, a number of videos of things that are going on inside the plant. As all of you know, we have suspended tours into the facility, and that's gone on for a number of months right now. So the idea is that we'll have a little bit of a virtual tour of the plant. So that should be of interest. And I have to say before we get too far, there's a gal that's up in the booth up there. She won't want anybody to see her. Her name's Rachel, and she helped put this presentation together. And what I think is really cool, when you see the videos, pay attention to the music, because she picked all the music, and it's all really, really cool. I think you'll all enjoy it. So not just the videos. So we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in the plant, some of the things that we're doing from a people standpoint, and you'll see some of the processes. This includes the paint shop and all the general assembly operations. So with that, we'll get started. So what's new in the plant? I always want to start out every meeting, and we do this in General Motors. We start talking about safety, and this is a little bit of an infomercial for Andy Pilgrim. Who in the room knows who Andy Pilgrim is? Okay, who doesn't know who Andy Pilgrim is? That was an easier and a much better question. Everybody has an idea who Andy Pilgrim is. He's an ex-Corvette championship racer, won Le Mans and a number of other races. He helped put Corvette racing on the map, and he's now an employee of the NCM. And his main mission that he has been working on for years and years and years involves traffic safety and driver's education. So in these two pictures, you see young ones over here on the right. He has a passion to try to educate young drivers regarding the safety aspect of what they're going to be partaking in. It's a fact that almost 90% of young drivers do not have any formal training. It's all on the parents. And it's also a fact that during the course of today, 10 people will lose their lives because someone thinks that this is more important than their loved one. So, from me to you, spread the news. If you see somebody using one of these when they're driving, tell them to put it down and take it very seriously. I know I do. We try to reinforce safety in all of our operations just because it's the right thing to do. AndyPilgrim.com, you can go there, and there's all kinds of materials that if you want to share it with your children, your grandchildren, etc., etc. It's a very good thing, and Andy is a proud resource to the NCM, the Motorsports Park. Okay, so a little bit, this slide almost borderlines on ridiculousness, doesn't it? Who knows what we make in the Bowling Green Assembly Plant? Well, I'm here to tell you, we make cars. And the cars, we make some pretty cool cars. And while everybody here, if they don't own one of these, they're gonna own one of them, or they wish they owned one of them, what I say is that this represents such a huge bandwidth of product portfolio that our product engineering team has delivered to the plant that we can then manufacture. From a Stingray to now the ZR1, all of these cars in their own right are awesome. And when we get new stuff like that, it does create a few headaches in our plant. But this is what we signed up for, and we're very proud that we consider the job that we do done very well. In addition to the car, we also put together engines, and you've probably all seen the statistics, but I just wanted to do a quick rundown. Here's the LT5, 755 horsepower, 715 foot-pounds of torque. Like many of those in the product team, I've had the ability to drive a ZR1 for over 5,000 miles now since January, and this car is truly awesome. It doesn't just look great, it does everything well. And we built this engine. It's almost, we could almost make this a tagline in our Performance Build Center. Our life starts at 650 horsepower, which, that was old ZR1 days, right? Life starts at 200. Resurrect that, this is 755, and the irony is that when you look at the LT4 now, you think, well, you know, little brother to the big guy. But this thing is also an unbelievable beast in its own right, and very, very good package. We also then have the LT1, where when you just stop and take a look at it, 455 horsepower, and the performance that you can get in a Corvette, Stingray, or a Grand Sport, you put this in the right hands on the track, and it'll dominate wherever it needs to go around the corner fast and go down the straightaway. So all great products. In addition to that, earlier this year, these are just a couple snapshots from an announcement that we had inside the plant. There were also a number of announcements outside of the facility, but this engine that is going to be exclusively produced in Bowling Green, it's referred to inside GM as the LTA, and this is destined for Cadillac. So while we have here a 4.2 liter, it's a little bit smaller than the typical Corvette engine. This is a twin turbo engine, and if you look at the engine, you'll notice that, well, where are the turbos? The turbos are in the valley of the V, so they're very, very compact. This means that the air is actually going in what would normally be an exhaust system and going through the engine and then out the V, referred to as a hot V. And the reason, there's a lot of people that have asked, and our leadership has formally announced that this is an engine that will be dedicated exclusively to Cadillac for a number of reasons. The reason that it's built in Bowling Green is that we specialize in this case, 500 horsepower and up. We specialize in these very niche engines. You can't afford to build an engine like this on an assembly line when you're doing single-digit units per day. So this is what we do, and it fit us, and this is one of our new products. This will go into production early next year with the current Cadillac CT6, and there'll be two versions, the normal and the V. So that's awesome. And you'll notice it does say Cadillac on top, if you haven't noticed. For all you conspiracy theorists out there. And I know who you are, because you send me emails all the time. Okay. So we do have some good news. The good news is that we have brought the build your own engine experience back. This was on hold for a period of time, and we brought it back in time for the ZR1. And the cool thing about this is that the chief engineer, his name's Jordan Lee, for all small block engines, he came down and he did what I would refer to as like a production trial run. We had everything set. Of course, the museum helped us manage that. The museum was engaged. They came over. We made sure that everything was going to be as we would want it to be as we restart this program. It went off very, very well. And Jordan was happy, and then we reopened this program. So how has Build Your Own been going inside the facility? It's been every day someone's coming to build an engine. Most of them are all for LT5s or ZR1s, but we've had a couple for the LT4s. So it's a great program. We've extended that into the summer at the very least, maybe longer. So if you're interested in that and you want to order a ZR1, you can do that. Another interesting fact, and this is completely a random act. Would anybody even dream that Mario Andretti is going to get the engine that Jordan Lee assembled? How cool is that? So it's like, when I heard that, it's like, no, you guys manage that. It's like, honest to goodness, we had nothing to do with it. We were just going to assign that engine to a car, and just out of curiosity, we checked. And so Mario Andretti has ordered a new Corvette, and he's going to get Jordan's engine, which is cool. Okay, so a little bit, we call this a sneak peek. This is when we're going to get into some videos, and this is where you can critique the audio, which I think that you're really going to love. And you can, of course, give me feedback. I look at feedback as something that's free, and I'm sure all of you have a lot of it. So, so here we go. Let's start. Before we do that, I want to just talk a little bit about the revised layout. In previous meetings where we've shown some of the the very important aspects of the change in the layout of our assembly process. We've talked about, as an example, all the panels are going on towards the very last part of the process. This is a great advantage for chips and scratches, what we refer to as paint mutilations. Putting them at the end of the process is just better. And there's a whole list of other inherent improvements in the process. And I'm going to just quickly show you what this looks like. So, yeah, the laser pointer doesn't work so good. On the far right, you'll see where it says trim. This is really the existing conveyor that we had. If you've been in the plant before, when you walk in the tour, you'll see the cars come down. They follow that blue line up to the point where it says VDL up, and then the car's raised and it's brought over to what we refer to as chassis 1. And so chassis 1 comes down, and you'll see where it says marriage. This is where the two cars come together, and then just pause there for a second, go to the bottom of the page, see where it says engine dress. This is where we take the complete assembled engines and we put the parts on it that are needed before it goes in the car. And then this comes down to chassis. SA stands for subassembly. So the chassis is completely going together, and then the car comes together through chassis 1 on this pink dotted line, up and over and back down to this kind of a fuchsia color where you see chassis 2, moves back to the center of the plant, and then back up. It crosses over the conveyor overhead, drops down to skillet 1, comes to the left, drops down, comes to the right, and then comes to another one of these VDLs, which is a fancy term for elevator or lowerator. The car comes around this dotted line, which is once again elevated to chassis 3, and then it comes to the final line. The final line is also relatively unchanged, and you'll see a couple shots of that. From there, we go to the alignment pit, we go to DVT, we go to the care line. Those processes are relatively unchanged. The only thing that's missing is up on top. This is door subassembly. This is where we're taking the painted doors and we're putting everything in the door that needs to be included. And then they come down to where it says EMS drop. EMS drop is where all the panels from the new paint shop come into the area for assembly. The doors, those panels, then are routed to the skillet line for assembly, and that completes the process flow, with the exception of the paint shop, which is a whole nother situation. Okay, so here's the video regarding engine dress. Okay, so we have a little technical difficulty with the audio. Yeah, you might think that the operators really work that fast, and I would like to say yes, but it's not actually the case. This is sped up just because the line rates that we currently have. If you remember, 11.5 cars per hour is what we produce, and at that rate, we really, sometimes you have to look at the line and stop and get some other frame of reference to make sure the line's really moving. So this kind of speeds things up a little bit. Maybe I'll ask the group in the back if we need to do something, or are we just going to continue without the audio? Somebody want to sing along? Anyway, this is the engine dress, and what you will notice as you look at the video, engine is on a pallet. The pallet can rotate. The rotation of the pallet gives the operators the ability to gain access to the things that they need to interact with, and it also puts the work very close to an ergonomic window, so that the work is very much in front of the operators. And some pretty high resolution images that give you an idea. So that orange cart that's going by, this is a cart that's loaded up with all the particular equipment that is needed for that specific engine. It's just called a kit. They're made offline, and they come in with the engine. They ride with the engine, and then what you just saw was that kit being recycled. It'll be then refilled. Looks like they're going to try to fix this here. They'll be refilled, and then it comes back around. This is something that's also very synonymous with what we do on our skillet line. So the skillet line that we have a larger kit that is brought to the line, and then it is actually placed right on the skillet. So the operators that pick a part, they can then just access the part. They don't necessarily need to have those parts delivered line side. Okay, so we'll move on to the next slide here. And this one, actually, I'm gonna go back here. I'm gonna pause, and I'm gonna let. What we're gonna do is we're gonna see if these guys can get this fixed. You guys have it? You're working on it? Okay. So while we're working on that, and maybe I would recommend that you guys just close it down and then close PowerPoint and reopen it. Because when you ever have any electronic problem, what do? Don't reboot the computer though, just the program. So it's happier before the day I met you. That's not it. No, we picked good music, but we didn't pick great music. If it was great music. But what we have over here, we were kind of saving for the last, but in the idea of preserving time. Anybody want to know what's underneath this? Okay, well, I told you it was going to be the last thing, and that's what it's going to be. So you guys will all have to wait. No, that's kind of a joke. I'm trying to buy time until these guys can get. Don't be so serious. Yeah, so that's not it either. What we have here is really pretty cool, and I would also say that we have some very key individuals from our paint department. Kim Cooper, raise your hand, who's on our line team. Chuck Valentini. Chuck, raise your hand. Chuck's the manager of the paint shop and the body shop, and Brad Bosma. Brad is for all intents and purposes, runs the new paint shop. And what we have here is we have two panels, one that was produced in our old shop and one that was produced in our new shop. So if you haven't been able to see side by side the improvement in panel or paint quality, it's hard to do if you don't see it side by side. You're going to have a chance after we're done here to come up and we'll unveil these. We'll turn the lights up and we'll let you guys see if you can very quickly pick which one is from the new and from the old shop. And I'll tell you, if you get it wrong, you need to open your eyes because it's a drastic improvement, and we're so proud of the work that that the paint team has done. It's made the car so much better. Okay, how are we doing now?
It's like Oregon. It's Oregon.
Okay, does anybody have a question while we're waiting that you guys want to ask?
Tell us about the C8.
Yeah, so I will playfully engage conversations around C8, but it's going to be a waste of your time because I'm not talking about it. Yes, sir.
You were mentioning about the panels. With the new kind of technology in paint, has that made it more difficult when you design the equipment to do the job that you're doing today on the car? In other words, old paint versus new paint. Has that made it a little bit harder today, or is it helpful?
Well, I'll give a shot, and then Chuck can take the rest of the afternoon because there's so much that goes to it. But I'm going to try to put it into a nutshell. The technology is available almost exclusively with what we do in our new shop. Adapting it to the materials that we're trying to paint, that's the hard part. So it's not the hardware that you need to be worried about. It's the the materials, the carbon fiber, the plastic, and the SMC that makes it very, very difficult. So how you come over that is the challenge. And so it's more of a, what's the process required to get great finish, as opposed to the hardware to go buy. Because the hardware that we buy, with some exception, anybody can buy. It's how you put it together that makes the difference. Did that almost pass, Chuck? Yeah, see, he's in agreement. What about another, is there any other question? Yep, right in the middle there. Yeah, Rick Hendricks, was it the black one? Red. Rick Hendricks, VIN number 1, he paid $925,000 for it. That's the right audio. We'll get back to that question later. Alright, so we'll just continue to watch this. You've already seen it, but enjoy the music. And we didn't get this from Nashville either. It's much more dramatic with the music, isn't it? So you can see they will start fasteners with a regular gun, and then they come back with a torque gun to verify that everything is the way it should be. You can see the kit on the left-hand side with the parts hanging on it. All those guns that they're pulling down are specialized torque guns. We know the torque on every fastener, on every engine, on every car that we may own. Isn't it better with the music? Yeah. It's like I was in my office and it's like, man, what's next? I was getting excited and I see this stuff every day. So the next one here we have, and this is why I really wanted to go back, because there's a couple things about what we say is old versus new, and you guys have, if you've been to the NCMs before and you've heard some of the presentations I've had, you have seen the new marriage process, at least some pictures of it. Now you're going to see an audio and a video version of the old and the new side by side. And listen to the music. Come on. When I got done listening to this, I just had this smile on my face. I said, and the video was done. And I said, well, you know, we got to make sure that the bride has a white dress on. I said, go back. I want to see the color of the car. We didn't plan it. And look, in both videos, they're white. We didn't plan that. Trust me. But here you can see also more, easier access, better access. And the car's going on this carrier up above. The chassis is riding on this AGC, so it's an electric-powered, self-propelled carrier. And all the chassis is assembled on, and then it pushes it up into the vehicle for final fastening. Okay, so the audio is pretty cool, isn't it? All right, so then we have a couple videos here, or one that will show a couple things. The skillet line and vertical displacement lifts, or VDLs, VDL, or vertical displacement lift, this is really, like I mentioned before, it's an elevator. We don't call them elevators because technically and from a regulation standpoint, an elevator by definition carries people and they need to be licensed. These don't fall into those inspection requirements. So we make up a really complicated name, and then we make a better acronym for it to further confuse anybody that doesn't work within our company. So here you go. And so the car does start its life on the skill line going backwards, but if you remember, it goes down one direction, it indexes, and then comes back. So you can see kind of a fast-forward version of the assembly process. Panels going on, parts going on. And the upper left there, you can kind of see where it is in that skillet as it goes through. Right now it's just getting ready to enter into the transfer where it just moves it over, crosses an aisleway, and then it'll start coming down skillet 2. In the background you'll see body shop actually. And here we're on the other side, so now the car is actually going the way it would be on the road. And you'll notice that the camera's fixed, but the car, it just went down because the car can go up and down depending on the work that's being done. And this is actually at the end of the skill line. It's a little bit grainy here because it's actually zoomed in to show the car going down up into overhead conveyor. And now we ride along with one of the cars as it goes through those motions. I think you get the impression that the plant, after we've went through this renovation, it really just looks unbelievably awesome. It's clean, it's so much quieter from conveyors not clicking and clacking. It's not so much louder than where we are in this room until you guys start asking questions. The next thing that we have here is cockpit assembly. This used to be, as if you remember in the plant, this used to be done on an overhead conveyor. So we have cockpit assembly, and then these automated guided carts, or AGCs. We have AGVs, we have AGCs, guided vehicles and guided carts. The carts are just the littler version. So what you'll see is these little battery-powered, looks like a little drone that's riding on the ground. Again, self-propelled, battery-powered, and flexible, and they can drag the parts wherever we need them independently and with some automation. So here we go. Where we put sensors in the ground so it knows where to stop and wait for the next operation. So those are really handy. We use these for cockpit assembly. You saw the assembly line where it's pulling this cart that's actually makes a platform for the people to work from. We also use that on the door assembly, and you'll see that in one of the subsequent videos if you look close. And then once the cockpit and the doors are assembled, then these tools are also used to deliver the material to where they need to be used within the vehicle. Alright, so the end of the line. Yeah, this music I think we refer to as like slurring ballet, something. But this is the final turn before the car comes to the final line. One just went by. energized, doesn't it? Okay, so now we get to talk